Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hassle Free RE podcast. I'm your host, Dave Menapace, and I'm joined here by my co host, Anson Roberts. Anson, what's happening, man?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Dude, just, giving vacations and making owners happy and finding my own happiness and in the web of all of that. But no, doing great, just coming off the back end of the short term rental wealth conference. Great to catch up with a bunch of people across the industry and see vendors that we've kind of seen over the years and see some of our mentors get to present and now
Yeah,
it's time to take what we've learned and apply it to real life. So things have been
yeah,
good. Things have been
love
good.
it. Love it.
Awesome. All right, well, why don't we jump right in? Today we have a very special guest, somebody from the STR Secrets Mastermind with us. Her name is Rashmi Baht. And Rashmi is this amazing human being, and she's accomplished a lot very, very quickly. And we're really, really excited to dive into that story. So I'm not going to spoil it because we have her here for the next hour to share it with us. But Rashmi, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I am so good, and thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I've been listening to you guys for a while and really excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we love we're super psyched to have you. Why don't we take it a few steps before short-term rentals? I think it would be really awesome to share your background, and we'll start there, and we'll bring folks to today.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2014 from business school, and I had 3 job offers like the May of 2014. It marks 10 years this year, which is crazy to think about.
That is.
I came home for a month and I kind of told my parents, I want to open a restaurant. I don't really know how. And they were like, okay, just do it. And they're like, we'll give you 1 year to do it. And after the 1 year, we want you to go back, get your master's, and get a real job. And I was like, cool, I can do that. So I found this landlord who was willing to lease me a space. And I was doing buy, biz, sell and buying like businesses before it was cool.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I could just open a restaurant. Like, how hard could it possibly be? So,
Yeah. Make food and people eat it.
so I had 10 grand to my name, and I like spent that trying to get like the first equipment for my restaurant.
What
I
was the
opened a
first
sandwich
purchase?
shop.
What was
Yeah,
the
well, I
first?
opened like a sandwich shop because I was like, I don't need a hood, I don't need a grease trap. So I took out everything that was expensive. And I found this guy on Fiverr to write me recipes. He was like a French chef in Canada to write me recipes, and that's what we used. And yeah, I just
It's
like
really
opened
cool.
it.
It's actually really freaking cool.
And yeah, and I found this guy, and I'm sure he must. I like as a landlord now. I'm sure he was like, "There's no way in hell I'm renting to a 21-year-old out of college who knows nothing." But he did, and like his confidence in me is something I still like think about to this day. And I try to make sure I provide the same level of optimism and opportunity to other people when they're new into the industry, because it's really easy to go like, this is not going to work out.
Right.
So we did that, and like obviously everybody that came into my sandwich shop would be like, "You're Indian. Why do we not have an Indian restaurant in this town?" And I was like, I don't know, dude. Like in my mind, I was like, A, because I don't have enough money, but B, I was just like, I don't know if I want to do an Indian restaurant. So kind of grew that. And then in 2019, I was like, things are going well. Let's just do the Indian restaurant. So we went all in and we opened officially an Indian restaurant in 2019. And then the sandwich brand, we took it fully wholesale. So we only sell to coffee shops, wine bars,
Ah,
and that kind of stuff. And it operates in the off hours of my Indian restaurant. So all of that was going really well. We were ramping up, and then like March of 2020 hits, and everything just kind of goes into like this whole collapse. And I will say, looking back, like that was the best thing that happened to us.
yeah.
Stay at home, and we had all these people that were like, "Oh my God, there's an Indian restaurant in town." I had no idea, and we got so much support. And I feel like everybody found out. And so we went to like limited hours when that kind of happened.
And where's this located? Where's the restaurant located?
So my restaurant is in New Braunfels, Texas, which is right in between Austin and San Antonio.
They have
So big.
they have like we buy a lot of ribs and smoked meat that gets shipped to us from there.
Yeah,
Small, it's
small world,
my
right?
thing.
They're super
Yeah.
popular, like super German town. Really good food, just like not Indian food, right? And so 2020 hits. And like I've never had this much free time in my life. Like I used to work 50 hours a week at my restaurant. And like I had all this free time and I'm on limited hours. The restaurant was open like 11 to 3, service only. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And like there's only so much Netflix I could watch and Tiger Show. And I was like, I can't live like this. So I started listening to podcasts and I'd been listening to Bigger Pockets. Remember when I mentioned I was doing the wholesale? So I would like drive up all the sandwiches to Austin or San Antonio, deliver them. So it would take me like 5 hours to like do delivery. So I had 5 hours to listen to podcasts, which is exactly what I did. And I learned this entire business by just listening to podcasts. And so 2020 hits, we're doing this, we're delivering, I'm listening to all these podcasts. And I'm like, wait, I couldn't make money on Bigger Pockets in like the long-term rents. I was like, there's no way I can spend all this money, like 40 grand to make $200 a month. Like I will never be financially free like that. Like the math didn't work in my head. And for the love of God, it sounds so boring.
Yeah, that's true.
It's great. I just personally find it boring. And finally, I just told my now husband, but back then boyfriend, I was like, Matt, I think there's something in short-term rentals. Avery Carl had just come on Bigger Pockets. And I was like, I think I could do this. Like, I like hospitality. I understand people. And I want to do real estate. I'm just like, I think we could do this. So a couple of our friends invited us over to a birthday party. And we went to Fredericksburg, Texas. And for what we paid that weekend was probably the lady's entire mortgage. And like that was like the light bulb moment in my head. I was like, wait, so literally like that Sunday, so this was like Friday, Saturday. On Saturday, I called 5 real estate agents in the area, set up appointments for Sunday, and went to tour the places. And I was like, I can do this. And told my husband, if I can make it work here, I can buy real estate anywhere in America. Like no problem. And yeah, it was really as simple as that. Like literally made the decision, and it took us 6 weeks to find the property. And
what was your purchase criteria? Maybe purchase price and
yeah, I'll tell you the details on that house. So the property came on the market. It was a log cabin on 2 acres. It came on the market at $330, and I was like, okay. And my parents actually came forward and they're like, hey, we like it. We want to buy it. Well, if we buy it, will you manage it? And I was like, yeah, sure. How complicated could management possibly be? And I took, and so, we did the 10% down. I knew that was an option. And at signing table, I looked at my now husband, but I looked at Matt and I was like, I don't know if my parents are going to get this 30 grand back. Like, I just had a moment of like complete panic. And I told my parents, I was like, I just want you to know, I know you've worked really hard for your 30 grand and I don't know if we're going to get it back, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you don't lose this money.
Yeah.
But it's like that first signing, I still remember like what that room felt like and like the panic that set in like in that moment. And I was so excited leading up to it until like that one moment. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've got to make this work. And that's literally what it was. Like, I was like, I didn't have a choice. So we bought it for, I didn't even tell you this. Okay. So we put in the offer. And I heard all the podcasts, right? And they were like, make sure you have like a 24-hour deadline on your offer. If you don't hear back, this. So like I put all of that in my contract. Well, I didn't hear back for like 5 days. We lost, like no big deal. We'll just move on. Well, apparently in between all of this, the seller had a heart attack.
Whoa.
And there were 6, it went on like multiple offers at this point. There were 6 offers, but we're the only people that made a full price offer. And he was just like, I just want to go with you guys. I just want to be done with it. He walked away from the place. Like there was still all of his stuff in there.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll do a rehab on this property. How much could a rehab possibly be? 30 grand, right? Like I was like, easy, no problem. I have so much confidence. Like looking back, I'm like, I don't even know how we like went through this whole thing. The 3-week rehab took 8 months.
What did that rehab include?
Yeah, I didn't even know I was going to do all of this, but like we took out like this huge extended garage room. We added 2 bathrooms. We went with a designer. Like we just did everything. Like,
and what was that process for you determining to like scale that rehab process up so much?
So again, I just thought rehabs took 3 weeks with like no
Okay.
prior context. And then when I was like, I'm doing a rehab, I started listening to rehab podcasts. And again, that was the second light bulb. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to take way longer than I expected. And I started listening to everybody in the market, and they were like, if you have a property, make sure your property stands out. And in Fredericksburg, even today, if you look for places for 16 people to stay, I'm one of the few ones that pops up because there's just not that much competition in the market. And I was like, okay, this is one way I could stand out is by having kind of like this bigger property and
Sure.
doing things that are different. And I knew that would kind of with the restaurant background, like be the different person, have the French sandwich shop in a German town, have an Indian restaurant. So I kind of come like always be different. And it was, dude, it was just like a prayer that I was like, I really hope this works. Well, apparently I have a big mouth. So I was like super confident all of this was going to work. And then recruited some friends to be partners of ours. And we bought 2 more deals in Fredericksburg before I even like launched my first deal.
That's cool.
And I was like, it's just going to work. No big deal. And we launched all 3
Confidence.
properties within like a week of each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did that's great. So one thing I love is your confidence behind this, right? 2
Mhm.
restaurants, no big deal, 3 STRs, I got this. What was the learning curve like in terms of operating these 3 properties? And did you quickly or maybe not quickly see any transferable skills from the restaurant business into short-term rentals?
So one thing I think looking back, being an immigrant into this country is a lot of immigrants, like we give up everything when we like move over here. And you basically like build from the ground up. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, an engineer, like you're basically like starting right over, right? So I kind of saw that with my parents, like they'd given up everything to be in the States. I grew up outside of India. And so I
Mhm.
saw that when we moved to France. So I'm used to like there is no fallback. Like you have to make this work. I see so many people that are like, Rashmi, I can't quit my W-2, or Rashmi, I want to buy real estate, but I'm so scared. I'm like, yeah, because you have a safety net, you can fall back. Like I didn't have a choice. Like the restaurant had to work. The STRs, like they had to work. Like I didn't accept like another reality. And like that's genuinely the truth. I was like, if I don't make my mortgage payment, like I'm gonna lose everything.
Right.
Trust me, when you have like that kind of like motivation, like you find a way to make it work. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do anything to make this work.
Right, right.
So I
It's
never just came with that.
That's amazing, and it's sort of like what we learn in some of the mindset stuff that we do of, like, having a burning desire is gonna trump a skill set every time.
Yeah, and people even today will be like, well, this market is saturated or this is that. And I'm like, well, if you believe it's saturated, like, sure. Like, yeah, it is. But if you're willing to put in the work, and yeah, it's a lot of money up front, like 100%, it's a lot of cash. And like, I had that going into the space. And I knew with restaurants, you putting like all this cash in. But what I loved about short-term rentals is the staffing is so much easier on short-term rentals that coming from restaurants. And it was like a huge step up for me personally, like coming in. I knew how to deliver great hospitality because I come from restaurants. But again, like for short-term rentals, like there's so many free resources out there. Like so many, like you just have to listen to what people are saying and then put it kind of your own spin on it, right? And that's exactly what I didn't make it super complicated. I was like, I gotta have automated messaging, I gotta have a calendar, and I gotta be on my phone all the time. 3 things not to mess this up. And again, like coming from an immigrant background, like we have people for anything, and labor is very cheap in India. So if your toilet goes out, you can just call a guy and he'll fix it, or your light bulb, right? So when we come to America, Americans are really handy people. Like they know how to fix all this stuff. Like I don't. People are like, yeah, I just built my cabin. I'm like, what do you mean you just built your cabin? Like that doesn't happen to most Indians I know. So I'm not used to calling people for like I have a whiteboard here, and like I have to call the guy to put up a whiteboard because I don't know how to put up a whiteboard, which is like crazy to so many people. But that skill works perfectly for short-term rentals because I was like, I have to pay people to do everything. So when a toilet goes out at 2 a.m., like it's not a big deal for me because I'm like, I'll just call the guy and he'll fix it. And I'm sure he can take a photo and send it to me.
Right.
And I have a guest in there that's going to tell me that this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I was like, and like as a restaurant owner, I'm like, I don't know how to fix my grease trap. So like I have to call people anyways. So
That's
that was like
right.
a really easy, like transferable skill.
I love
Yeah.
it.
When you started and you dipped your toes in the STR world, were you where you're at now? Was that like in view, or was that, hey, I'm going to try this out, and then it's escalated from there?
No, it was always in the view. I told my partners,
Okay.
and I was like, we're going to grow this business. It's going to be a thing for us. I don't think we projected the growth would be to the amount of listings we have. We didn't project. But no, and I think one of the big things for that is I signed up with OwnerRez in like 21 because I knew it would scale. And it was like the software I wanted to. Other people will go with Hospitable. Nothing wrong with it. We offer Hospitable to consulting clients. But like I always knew there was like a growth path like in this for me. And what I love about this business, and I always tell my husband this, is suppose 5 years from now, like I don't want to manage this. This is one of the things you really can find a great co-host or property manager and hand it over, and you can be as
Right.
passive as you want in this. I can't do that with my restaurant. I can't be like somebody just manage this restaurant for me.
Or could you?
Yeah,
Oh boy.
I've thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so why don't you, so you went from your three properties that you own and co-own
Mhm.
to now I'll drop the bomb 70 properties. What what has that growth felt like? What has been your experience with it? And what are the differences, obvious or not obvious, between managing 70 properties from three? What have you had to learn and reinvent as you've gone along?
So 21, we launched 3 properties. That same year, we decided to buy another properties in the Smokies.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that, and then we went under contract for 2 cabins in Broken Bow. So we had like a huge like ramp up kind of in properties. And 22, I was like, I'm self-managing, we're crushing. We closed on the Broken Bow properties in 22. Cost seg is great, like life is just fantastic. And December 24th, 2022, I have properties in 3 different states. I'm self-managing everything. And I'm putting like ham in the oven for Christmas Eve dinner because I'm hosting my entire family. I have 3 pipes burst in my personal residence, and every single property I have freezes over on Christmas Eve with huge bookings. And I'm literally like on my phone trying to fix this as I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Matt and I was like, I am never doing this again. Like, never. I was
Yeah.
on calls and this, and I was like, I never. 2 weeks later, I signed up for the STR mastermind. And I can talk about like vibration, right? I had this girl like reach out to me on Facebook, and she was like randomly like cold DM and was like, "Hey, I live in the Philippines. I used to work for Airbnb. I'm looking for something new. Are you looking for an Airbnb VA?" And I had
Heck
tested
yeah.
and hired 6 Airbnb specific VAs before this. None of them worked out.
Mm.
And I was like, as a matter of fact, I am looking for someone. Um, and we started working together. But yeah, I just
Nice.
had that moment where I was like, I don't want to live like this. Like I did not sign up for this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. So, how did you go? And I remember that was a
Yeah.
really, really bad snowstorm that
Yeah.
went from like middle central
Mhm.
US all the way, I almost said Central America, central US all the way up through the Northeast. Do you remember that storm, Anson? Did you guys get hit with it in Denver?
Yep.
That was
Yep.
beast.
Yeah. It
It was
was a
bad.
lot of the country.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so what were some of the initial things you learned when joining STR Secrets? How'd that sort of develop?
So I joined and I paid the money. And like again, I looked at my husband. I was like, again, I don't know if we're gonna get this money back. A lot of it has just been like, a lot of people make these investments and you just have to be okay. Like I've been able to fall asleep every night, including December 24th, 2022. I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep. Like there's nothing I can do more like to fix this. Like I've done what I can. So I was like, I told my husband, it cost this much. I'm going to do it. I think it will change our lives. But we could also just lose the entire money and like we will make it back. Because I'm a big believer that we can always make a lot more money. I was like, we'll make it back. I don't know how, but we'll do it. So we join And my mentor like specializes in operations. You guys know Chris.
Yeah.
And on our first call, I pretty much have a meltdown. I'm like, nothing is working. These VAs are expensive. I'm burning money, and like I can't grow. Like I'm like stuck in this whole thing, and like I kind of like get out of this like rut that I'm in, where I'm like I'm self-managing, I'm crushing it, everything's great, to like having this whole meltdown. And he's like, okay, like you need to breathe. I need to like chill. And he like walked me off the cliff because I think I wouldn't have made it even with this VA if I hadn't like implemented the systems I learned in STR secrets, right? Like Mike Sugarman is so great about like putting these systems in.
Right.
And like everyone has these meltdown moments. Like I literally had one like 2 days ago. And you need a group of people, and it can't be your spouse because they don't do this with you. It can't be your family, that you literally just text her and you're like, what do I do? Like I'm panicking right now.
Right.
These group of
Right.
people to like help you be like, okay, like this is completely normal. This happens to everybody like all the time. No big deal. And like it takes you down a notch for you, right? And he's like, you have 6 listings. You need to calm down. And he's like, he literally was like, do you talk to them like every day? Like, do you get on a call? And I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be talking to them? I had like no idea of like the most basic things about how to manage a VA. And I slowly started kind of implementing everything I like learned in the mastermind
Right.
through here. And then now we have a team of 3. We're about to hire a 4th VA.
I love it.
But what I tell people is if I hadn't done that in January, February, March, when I was burning money, literally, putting in all the systems and getting frustrated, like when you first hire the VA, like it's tough. Because you're sold like this vision, like your life is going to be so great, and it's not, because you're spending all this extra time putting in your SOPs. You're putting all these times on a call. You're like, this is so easy because like I've been doing it for 2 years, so it's easy for me, but doesn't mean it's easy for the team, right? So
Right.
and then in March, a friend reaches out to me and goes, hey, I'm a really great sales guy. I have my own management company, but I struggle with operations and putting VAs in. I see you're really good at it. Would you like to come on board and help me manage these 30 listings? And I was like, okay. And again, like my mentor had done this exact same thing where he was like, he had a sales partnership. The guy was really good at sales.
Right.
He was really good at ops. They did that. So I was like, hey, like, how did you guys put this together? Cool. If you did that, I'm going to do that. So that's exactly what I did.
Oh, that's
And I was
cool.
like, and I was very clear, like right off the bat, I
Cool.
was like, I don't handle guest com. I don't handle owner com. I handle listing optimization. I handle back of the end stuff. I handle VAs. And I'm on a mission to do less in life than to do more.
Right.
So, and at that
I hear
point,
that.
yeah, I
Amen.
was like, we're getting ready to maybe start having a family coming up in the next year. Like I really can't take on a whole bunch of things that don't bring me like genuine joy. And something
Mhm.
that's kind of flexible. So yeah, and I told him, I was like, I'm happy to do this for free. And he was like, no, like I want you to pay you. I want to do this. And we started working, and he was like, it'll be like a 2-month arrangement. And I was like, cool, like that's great. It's we're about to be at a year with the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you some of those operational tasks, did
Mhm.
you both work to have the VAs take those on? Did he sort of just oversee that so you didn't have to? How did that work?
Yep. So we have a day-to-day operations manager who handles
Nice.
a lot of the ops that kind of go through. She's
Mhm.
amazing, lifesaver. And then a lot of people just don't know how to handle VAs. Like, how do you find them? How do you train them? How do you put your SOPs in place? A lot of people, like, even in our mastermind, will talk about, like, I'm working on putting my SOPs in place. I'm like, you have 3 properties. You don't need to work on your SOPs. You need to go out and get more sales. You need to get more clients. Hire your first VA, do Loom calls, and then have them write
Yes.
your SOP for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
wasted, and you know this, Dave.
you're totally right though.
Mhm.
No, and it's a natural a lot of the sort of mentors out there do always say, I wish on the first one I treated it like it was my 10th. Like, you know what? You probably wouldn't have gotten to your 10th if you worked that hard on the SOPs in the beginning, because that SOPs are easy. Getting clients is hard.
Yeah,
How
it's
about for you, Anson?
Yeah, well, it totally is. And a mentor of mine, he breaks down our approach between job, business, and busyness. Job being like the actual work that you do within the business. The business component is the sales aspect of driving new clients in, and busyness is refining your website and everything, like you're getting your cell phone set up, all those tasks that need to be done, but they don't actually build the business in their own right. And understanding with discernment, like which stage you need to focus on is absolutely critical, because as you're saying, Rashmi, if you have 2 properties and you have 85 SOPs and you have everything structured, that's fine, but you don't have any like flow of business coming in, and you have to order that correctly if the intent is growth, if you actually want to get to the place that you have been able to get to in the time span that you have.
I think a lot of people confuse growth, because we were at STR WealthCon last week, and a lot of people are like, I don't want to grow my business, right? Like, I'm good at where I'm at. And I'm like, I didn't want to grow my business either, but I would literally have done anything for time freedom. And a lot of people don't understand that you have to be at a certain scale to be able to hire people to have that time freedom. That's what like prompted my growth, is I was like, I can't live like this. I don't want to answer like people are like, I'm great at guest com. I'm like, I'm the best at guest com. Have you seen me respond to a Wi-Fi response on Airbnb? Dude, I'm great at it. But it's not $1,000 an hour task.
Right.
It's not. So
Which is that becoming a guiding principle for you? Is that like you value your time?
100%.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better about it. Grew up again like the immigrant mindset, right? So great. Part of being a good wife is you cook your husband 3 meals a day. And I literally had to ask myself in the mindset, like, is that $1,000 an hour task? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? But like, is it really? And like the answer was it's not. So can we hire a chef to meal prep for us? Or I like refuse to walk into Walmart or HEB for us. And so I always have stuff delivered to us.
Mm-hmm.
But going a lot beyond like short-term rentals and real estate, being like what is $1,000 an hour task, and what is $100 an hour task, and genuinely believing it, because it's easy to talk about it, but it's hard to do it when you're burning money on a business like I was. But if I hadn't done it, I couldn't have grown. I couldn't have accepted the partnership.
Right.
And having the belief that like something will come up where you'll make the money, right?
Right. Well, and that goes back to confidence and belief too. And I think some people mistake that with saying like, oh, you're down to take risks, and things are only as risky as you let them be, in my opinion. If you have confidence and a vision for something, that'll trump everything, in my opinion. And it's totally fine not to know how it's going to work out or how to accomplish it. But if you can attract people that might have a better idea on how to accomplish that, or be able to guide you, or you have the means to, pay for a mentorship to help speed that process up, you will get there. And, in the masterminds, I tend to find the more expensive ones generally yield the highest results. And it's not always because they're have better information. It's just people seem to tie a certain level of commitment to a cost that they're paying for something, because there's usually a level of pain to let go of that money. It's really interesting.
It's just like going to college, right? You're paying $60,000 a year in 4 years. You better find a job that's going to make you 6 figures, regardless of what. And like honestly, like all of that knowledge, I'm a big believer should be free, right? And it is free on a lot of sites. But the problem with when things are free is no one values it. So no one shows up to it and no one takes action. But if we have a call and we say this call is worth $500, it's worth $1,000, you're going to show up no matter how expensive it is and no matter what's happening in your life, right?
Right. Totally.
And that's the action. That's the action part in all of this that I think a lot of people kind of don't take.
Yes, totally. So you're up to 30 or 35 at that point. And then what was the progression to 50 and 70? And how has your team adjusted to that? And I'd love to ask some mindset related questions on just getting there.
You're the mindset guru. You guys are the mindset guru.
Yeah, but you are too. You're in it.
But you're executing with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the partnership, we got the VAs aligned out. We got our operations managers spending 80 hours a week just doing things that like VAs should have been handling. So we really worked a couple of months on optimizing that system. We got that one up to 46 listings, from 30 to 46. and the manager now works 25 hours or less.
Nice.
And my business partner was able to kind of get out more and just focus on sales and handle all of their other businesses. And then I'm very part-time in that business. And
Cool.
then again, like 2023 was a year of mostly going like, what am I going to do? Like, do I want more co-hosting? Do I want to buy a hotel? Do I want to buy short-term rental? It was kind of like a year where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And optimizing the VAs, because it really does take time to like keep tweaking the system to make
Right.
sure that things aren't falling through the crack. It's that whole thing like trust but verify
Mm-hmm.
kind of system. And so we're doing that, and I casually mention in like a mastermind call that I'm like, I'm looking to like buy my first hotel. Don't know where, don't know how, but like this is what I'm looking. And one of the mastermind members like brings me an opportunity where he's like, hey, I have a friend. He has a hotel, needs help with management. Is that something you do? And I was like, no, but I will do anything. My first deal. I've always had that mentality, like I will do anything. And I was like, if he gives me the contract, I'm gonna make sure I do my very best. I can't guarantee what it'll make, but I will give it my 100%. And I genuinely believe that. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it on. So we did. And it's been really
Love
good.
it.
It's like surpassed all expectations. My expectations were at zero. So I will say it's surpassed everything.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So
And
that picked me up a couple of units. Sorry, go ahead.
no, and I was going to say, and just recently you signed on another one that sounds like you guys will be integrating into the management of that pretty soon too.
Correct. Yeah.
I love it. Let's take a few steps back now. I know that, and for our listeners, Anson, Rashmi, and I are all in the same mastermind. And Rashmi and I were in a mastermind event in November, and both of us had an encounter that I'd say is by chance, but really it's by law, with a guy that I know has really had a profound impact on both of our lives. And talk to me a little bit about when you started getting interested in the mindset space and how your study in that space has started to have an impact in your life and in your businesses.
So prior to this, haven't done any mindset like at all. Like this is completely zero newbie. Again, like the immigrant mentality, like work hard, make money, you know, be grateful you're in America kind of mindset, right?
Sure.
And so we go to the call, and it was a Boston event, and I was like, this is amazing. And I really wish my husband had been there when we like did this. And I was like, this is so cool. And I come back home, and something the speaker had said was when you go back home, your paradigm will start to like pull you back into your routine. And I literally had to like go Google paradigm because I was like, I have no idea what he meant by it.
That's all right.
Yeah. And I did. And I told my husband, I was like, hey, like we started real estate together. He's not involved in it actively at the moment, and it's not his passion. And I was like, hey, like, I'm in the SDR Secrets Mastermind. I really like it. I'm all about real estate and hospitality. It's not for you, like, totally cool. But would you be interested in doing this and seeing where it takes you? And he, like, gets on the first call with them, and he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, like, that's fair. Like, that's fair. Like, I'm, like, gung-ho to do anything, right?
Right.
He's like, I don't know. And so I talked to them, like, my husband and I are struggling a little bit on like, we love real estate, like, or like I love real estate, I love hospitality. He may have a different path. And what does that look like? And again, we were like, we'll just spend the money. And like, if we don't get it back, we'll make it back somewhere.
Right. It'll flow back.
Yeah. I was like, we'll make it back. And it's completely changed our world.
It's awesome.
As a couple, I think a lot of couples struggle with this. Like, if you have a business together, like, where do I fall? Where does he fall? Kind of going back and forth. We weren't arguing with each other at any point, but I would be like, why aren't you doing this? And you're just kind of like nagging and this and the mindset. It's helped me realize that I'm responsible for everything in my life. So if I want to make money, I need to go out and make money. Like it really is just as simple as that. And stop expecting other people to do things for me. And getting
Right.
out of this like right where I was like, blaming him for things and just being like, I'm responsible for it. So I can just go out and do it. And I did.
It's amazing.
And how did that translate to y'all's working relationship within the marriage context, his engagement or lack of engagement in anything
So,
professional or mindset?
yeah, they actually called me out on the mindset call on one of our calls. They're like, you're being a nagging wife because you grew up in an immigrant family where not that you nag, but you're usually told like this is what you do. And so, like you go to school, you go to college, you get your first job, and I've always been different in that aspect. I've always wanted to do my own thing. And so with him, subconsciously, I was like, you've got to do this. Like, we've got to buy real estate. We've got to like do XYZ. And what this has gotten us, like the mindset stuff, is realizing like he has a different path. I can still be a part of that path. But he's really good on camera. Like he loves talking to people. He's charismatic. Um, Out of like nowhere, like I didn't even know this was a whole thing. Like he's been talking about wanting to start this YouTube channel. And like you hear everybody who's like, "Oh, I have an 18-year-old friend that's on YouTube and makes millions of dollars posting about going to the pool." And like there's just like this whole negative connotation of being a content creator. It was a huge mindset thing, right? Like how can you be a content creator while producing stuff of good value? And it got him to take a chance on himself. So he like started this YouTube channel and started posting videos. And then, like 2 days later, went right back into the old. Like, this is not worth it. This is absolutely ridiculous. We're never gonna make any money doing it. And then that's when the calls come back, and they're like, "Your mind will do this to you. You
Right.
gotta keep going, and you gotta be around people who keep pushing you."
So
Mhm.
it wants to pull you back into the familiar.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
we didn't know that. Like we didn't know that that's what's happening because like he talks to me and I talk to him. Like our we didn't have anyone else to be like this is completely normal.
Right.
And Mike Sherman's talked about it. He's like, your entire world will crumble when this happens, and it physically hurts. Like I've talked about getting breakouts and tummy aches, and like oh, I'm sick. Like I can't handle this right now. But that's literally your mind like freaking out about what is happening to you, and you just have to move past it. You're like, I'll be okay. Like I'll be fine. I'm perfectly fine, and it's true.
Yeah.
But you need somebody there to be like, this is complete because you can't tell your parents because they'll just freak out and be like, absolutely not, and pull you
Right.
right back exactly where you were. And
Ah, yeah, it's such a good point. It's such a, the when you're operating at a higher paradigm, like yourself isn't used to that. The only way you get used to that is by continually practicing being in that state of mind. And it's not being in fairy tale land, it's about being where you want to be, right? And only making decisions based on what you want and staying in that and staying true to that. Because most people, navigate this world and the world kicks their butt, right? They react to a lot of things. Even if they're patient and calm and not upset about what life's throwing at them, they're reacting to what's happening rather than making the world react to them. And in that instance, not wanting to continue to put yourself out there, even though it's actually what you really want, that's just like another example, like you said, of your old paradigm just like clawing you back.
that and it was really important for me that we be on the same kind of like frequency and vibration. I didn't want us to grow apart in this journey because I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs, get divorced with their
Right.
spouses. There's a lot of animosity, and like I was like, I just like we have such a great relationship. It's important for me that we continue to grow that. So I kind of like dragged him into it, and then I kind of had to be like, okay, like I need to like back away and like do this. And like what's been shocking, which is just like still hard for me to process, is I let go, and I thought like he would just drift back, right? But because I held myself to my standard, he like met me here. So now he's coming up with content ideas. He's coming up with doing things. And the entire reason we set out on this real estate journey was for the freedom, right?
Right.
We can make money doing a lot of things. But this
That's so
is
cool.
the freedom and the lifestyle we're looking for. This lets us be the kind of parents we dream of being. Like this allows for us to do these things, right? And so I genuinely thought when I was like, I'm going to back away, like things like I was like, he's going to go right back into all of his old things. But no, he's like come right up along with me.
I
And
love
I was
that.
like that was really cool to see because you want to hold things like this, right? Like again, like that immigrant mindset, right? Like you work hard you work hard. The harder you work, the more money you make. So it's hard to let go and become like loose with things, right? Especially money. Like money's tight for a lot of immigrants.
Yeah. A
And
lot of
so
people in
yeah,
general.
people in general, 100%. And so it's hard to like, especially when you're putting 5 figures into these masterminds, and you're like, a lot of money, dude.
Well, and you want to know why? One of the things I've learned is it's not time for money, it's life for money, because people's whole identity is usually wrapped up in what they do, and they're spending their time, and their time is their life. And so when you make that connection between life and money, even though money is just an idea, and we talk about it all the time, money is just energy, and it's just an idea, and the more you put out, the more it flows right back to you just as fast. But that is a hard jump for people to make mentally if they're not in this mindset space that we're in.
Yeah, and when people tell me like money's energy, I'm like, I have no idea what that means. Like I know people keep repeating that to me. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. And like the more you're around it, the more it starts making
Right.
sense to you. And you're like,
Yeah.
it is. And like people are like, well, what do you talk about? Like vibration? Like what? Like, well, like, okay, when you have a freak out moment, what do you do? Like, do you operate from a place of fear? Because that's the paradigm, right? That's how
Right.
or that's how you react. I'm taking a step back and being like, calm down. Like, what I was talking about with the VAs, like things aren't working out and just freaking out and being like, you're fired, get out.
Right.
And she's like, calm down and think this through.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. When you can hold things lightly, you'll have more control. And when you have an idea that's fixed in your mind that you don't let go of, and you believe in it, you're going to accomplish a lot. So what are your goals in real estate and life? What's like, we're jumping into 2024, even though we're about 6 weeks in, but where do you want to see yourself take these companies? Maybe any new companies do you have ideas of on the horizon?
Yeah. So a big goal for this year is to buy our own boutique hotel. So if anyone
Yeah.
has any deals in Central Texas, hit me
Hmm.
up. And a big push is to be on the digital front. So if you guys
Yeah.
want to connect, I am on kind of real estate Twitter. I talk about my journey a lot on real estate Twitter. And I post content on YouTube, even though it's tough and I don't know if it makes a difference. But I still do it because it's important for me to provide this
Good.
level of value. Because I had other people who did this for me. And one of our big things probably at the end of this year is to start thinking about starting a family. That's been big on the list. And I think we're finally gonna,
Love it.
all of this work has been, so we're able to do that. So that's been big. But being able to take those leaps, right? Like when you talk about mindset, right? They tell you like have this vision and the how doesn't matter. And I literally looked at my husband and I was like, this is some American people thing. Like, what do they even mean? Like, I have no idea what any of this means. Oh, what do you mean? Like, how? I'm like, how can I not look at the how, right? And yeah, and like I looked back at my own life and I was like, I didn't know you could manage boutique hotels. Like, I like did not know until November of 2023. So like 3 months ago, that was a thing. Okay.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I did not. Short-term rentals weren't even around when
Right.
in like 2008, 2000, like that's when Airbnb. But short-term rentals have been around for way longer than that, right? But like the way we manage them hasn't been around for even a decade at this point.
Right.
So
No, it's
what
true.
you like, the how really doesn't matter if you have the vision and the desire. And for a lot of it, I got what I wanted. Like we set on this path, we made the amount of money we wanted. Like we got there, and then we just got stuck because we got comfortable. Like we got really comfortable. And an active push is to like get out of the comfort zone and continue. And a lot of people will find this like right when you're going to college, you're working hard, you stay up late, you're studying, you get your first job. Like life is so great, and you just follow this routine. You get married, you have kids, and you just follow this like rut. And like life is comfortable, and it's really hard to like get out and like well. And I had this whole fear of like losing it all, like immigrant mindset, right? So like I was like, I'm gonna lose everything. I have no bookings. And then people will be like, I told you so not to buy real estate. And like I just kept going through this while my properties were booked. And
They're crushing it.
yeah. But like that's the mastermind, right? Like being in the group and being like, oh, like can I be the 1% that's actually crushing it? Like, is that possible? Is there a world for me out there? And like getting through all of that, and a lot of immigrants kind of relate to like the story, right? Where you grow up and it's really hard not to work hard and like letting go.
Right. Oh man, I love this, Rashmi. I think it's fantastic. Before we sign off, I'd love for you to share how folks could get in touch with you, how they can find you, how they can buy food from you, buy a vacation from you, to help partner with you on a hotel. How can folks find you?
I love hanging out on real estate Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at this point, honestly. I try to answer most of my DMs. Sometimes I miss it. If you want to hit me a follow and subscribe, or I am trying to like get my Twitter concept there. I'm only at if you guys want a life-changing platform, and I'm genuinely like life-changing, get on Twitter. It will, the amount of people, I have less than 400 followers, and I talk about this all the time. I've connected with family offices that want to invest with me. I've connected with high net worth individuals. I just connected with doctors who have private offices. They just have cash. They're like, we want to invest, don't have time to manage it. Do you have any investment opportunities? I connect with brokers, boutique hotel owners. I mean, everyone that's anyone, any company you want is on Twitter. Like I literally follow a guy named Pest Control Guy. He owns 2 pest control service companies.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he just like publishes his number, talks about like how hard HR is, how they find people. Like he literally had a post where he was like, "Hey, I got my car wrapped. Do you think like this is gonna drive business? Do you think it doesn't?" Like, you could follow. Like, I mean, there's another guy I follow called Dumpster Rental Guy, and at big rehab places you need to hire dumpsters.
Yeah.
Well, that's what his company does.
No kidding.
Yeah, and you get to meet like the coolest people, and he's like big onto like Google SEO. So like, how do you use SEO to optimize? So the connections, and I'm talking about like politics, not Twitter. Like I like live, and like real estate Twitter isn't like a thing. It's just like all you do is follow people who talk about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of knowledge that's out on Twitter is insane, and the amount of people you can connect with, and the amount of information that is just put out there, it's mind-boggling.
Very top notch. So what's your Twitter handle?
It's Chai and Cabins.
Chai and Cabins, like CHAI and Cabins. I love it. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Well, Rashmi, thanks for joining us. And actually, one last thing, you have a podcast. Tell people about the podcast.
Yes, I do. So Jen and I have a podcast. You guys can head over to YouTube under Chai and Cabins as well. And we interview great people like you. We're actually going to have Dave on the podcast coming up soon. And Anson, I actually wanted to get you on my podcast too. So
let's make it happen.
Let's do it. But we talk about short-term rentals, women in short-term rentals, and real estate. Jen is a stay-at-home mom who manages her business from here and homeschools 3 boys. So she has a really cool story, I think. And we have lots of fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Rashmi, thank you so much for joining the Hassle-Free RE podcast. We'll have this posted in a few weeks for folks. Anson, great hanging out with you again.
Good seeing you as always, Brian.
Signing off.